Let the word go forth from this time and place to friend and foe alike that the torch has been passed to a new generation of Americans.
1960. It was the dawn of the Golden Age. Americans believed they were standing at the beginning of a new era. Kennedy's election set the tone for government possessing big answers to big problems. However, that golden age never materialized. The assassination of Kennedy and the continued fight in Vietnam were just the beginning of an era of confusion. The fight for civil rights continued the turmoil. Demonstrations and protests became daily headlines on national news. As Black Power became the new focus of the civil rights movement, other groups were growing similarly agitated. Activists were becoming more radical and polarizing people into violence. Police needed to use tear gas and billy clubs. The culture of America was changing, and many were taking a stand. With the stated purpose of fighting hate and bigotry, the Southern Poverty Law Center, or SPLC, emerged in 1971. Claiming to seek justice for the most vulnerable members of society, they became known for battling racial and social injustice through the tracking of hate groups, which they publicize on their hate map and publications. The Southern Poverty Law Center has exploited numerous landmark legal victories. They claim to topple institutional racism in the South and bankrupt our nation's most violent white supremacist groups. They continued supposedly winning justice for exploited workers, abused prison inmates, disabled children, and other victims of discrimination. While it is true that the Southern Poverty Law Center exposed militant extremist organizations such as the KKK or neo-Nazis, they also attack many groups or individuals based on their political beliefs or views. Allegations made against these people are often untrue or hateful.
Dr. Carol Swain is a professor of political science and law at Vanderbilt University. She has come under attack from Mark Potok of the SPLC, called her an apologist for white supremacists. Now, that is a very serious charge. She is also the author of a couple of books on white supremacism, so she is very much opposed to it and has written extensively on this. She says that she was attacked primarily because she opposes open borders immigration. And for that, she says, she was attacked by the Southern Poverty Law Center and smeared by them.
Many individuals and organizations are smeared with charges such as these. A large number of black ministers across the country are continually smeared by the SPLC for their outspoken view on homosexuality. These attacks are not just made in local newspapers, but also through the SPLC's webpage, their Hate Watch, and their intelligence report. This publication is distributed quarterly to law enforcement agencies, the media, and the general public. Through it, the SPLC has been very effective in swaying the public's perception. They have also been effective through a tactic known as the sandwich smear.
Morris Dees and the SPLC have perfected the sandwich smear. That is a tactic which takes a legitimate person or organization like the Family Research Council and sandwiches them between two notorious, odious images or organization. Or in the narrative text, weave in references to neo-Nazis, violence, extremism. They aren't specifically saying that this individual or organization is a neo-Nazi or Ku Klux Klan, but they know that those images and context will actually affix that label to the individual or organization that they're targeting.
Smearing, or placing organizations and individuals in a bad context, only produces more hatred. Effects of these tactics are influencing areas of great importance. Since the 1990s, the Southern Poverty Law Center has utilized its connections with the Clinton administration and the media to develop very close relationships with the Federal Justice Department and the FBI. It has parlayed that relationship into ties with federal, state, and local police agencies. With these connections, the Southern Poverty Law Center has been allowed to provide training and intelligence to federal, state, and local law agencies. A portion of these training sessions consist of information on hate groups. Their influence doesn't stop there. SPLC resources are increasingly being used by certain agencies of the federal government. One in particular is the Department of Homeland Security. In 2009, they issued a report on violent right-wing extremism. This caused many problems for the Department of Homeland Security, their Secretary Janet Napolitano, and the Obama administration. This report targeted veterans returning from Afghanistan and Iraq as being prime candidates for involvement in right-wing extremism and terrorism here at home.
Many veterans groups rightfully got upset with this and put pressure on the administration, and the Department of Homeland Security and Secretary Napolitano was forced to sort of apologize. She said she was sorry that this report had offended veterans. But it went beyond that. It targeted people who are opposed to the United Nations, people who are opposed to abortion, and lumped them together with actual terrorists and extremists around the country.
Napolitano resisted attempts by members of Congress and the public to have the sources and provenance of this report released. Finally, under a Freedom of Information Act lawsuit, the department was forced to release the information.
And lo and behold, when it comes out, when it was released, we find a whole listing for the sources of this report come from website citations of the Southern Poverty Law Center. So in effect, what we see with this one report is that the SPLC has hijacked the Department of Homeland Security and transferred the SPLC's agenda directly into the official Department of Homeland Security, one of our largest bureaucracies and police agencies in the country, directly into the DHS, the Department of Justice, and the FBI.
In general, agencies within our government are supplying false information that is being funneled all the way down to our local communities. So what other false information is the Southern Poverty Law Center disseminating? Laird Wilcox, a recognized expert on extremist groups, researched the SPLC. He says
that shoddy, even fraudulent research methodology is standard operating procedure at the SPLC. With minimal effort, I went through a list of 800 plus hate groups published by the SPLC and determined that over half of them were either non-existent, existed in name only, or were inactive.
Wilcox is not the only person with these findings.
Laird Wilcox and others have pointed out that the annual report by the SPLC on hate groups and their hate map are loaded with fraudulent statistics that can't be verified. It's always showing that hate groups are going up.
The Southern Poverty Law Center literally targets tens of millions of Americans. For instance, some of the targets for smears over the years by the SPLC have been the National Rifle Association, Focus on the Family Ministry, Concerned Women for America, Coral Ridge Ministries, Gun Owners of America, the Wall Builders Ministry, the Family Research Council, the Chalcedon Foundation, Americans for the Truth About Homosexuality, Liberty Council, the Traditional Values Coalition, the Christian Action Network, the John Birch Society, and the National Organization for Marriage. You would assume that someone promoting civil rights would be fair and unbiased. Yet as you look at some of the SPLC's targets, you may notice it may seem one-sided. They focus a lot of attention on supposed right-wing terrorism. There has been a connection between the SPLC and the far left for many years. The associations makes one question the integrity of the organization.
During the 1960s, the most notorious violent terrorist group in the United States was the Weather Underground. One of the principal leaders of that organization was William Ayers, Bill Ayers, and his wife Bernadine Dorn. They led a rampage of bombings across the United States. Now, it's interesting that the Southern Poverty Law Center holds up Bill Ayers now as a leader in their teaching tolerance program. Bill Ayers has supposedly transformed himself into a distinguished professor of education. So now he is reforming our schools and teaching our children. But it's important to note that Bill Ayers is an unrepentant former terrorist. That is, he has said in numerous interviews that he does not regret his activities of the 1960s, nor does he repudiate terrorism per se. That is, he said he cannot rule out using it again in the future.
So why would an organization dedicated to fighting hatred and bigotry support such people? As you look closer at the Southern Poverty Law Center, you will find they are not what they appear. When searching websites on the Southern Poverty Law Center, you will find the organization is supported mainly through donor contributions. It has been said that they do not accept government funds or charge its clients legal fees or share in the court-awarded judgments. These claims have been proven false.
In its promotional literature, the SPLC invariably refers to its initial famous case, the Michael Donald case. Michael Donald was a young black student, 19 years old, who was brutally beaten and lynched by members of the United Klans of America. That crime was prosecuted and the Klansmen were convicted. However, Morris Dees and the SPLC approached Beulah Mae Donald, the mother of the murdered boy, and went after the Klans in a civil suit. And in the civil suit, they bankrupted the Klan and won a $7 million judgment. Well, this is a wonderful thing, and it was seemed to be a final justice for the mother. However, she received only $50,000.
Examples such as this would explain why the Southern Poverty Law Center is one of the richest private organizations in our country. They have been so successful at exploiting race and hatred in our country, they now have $229 million in their endowment, and additionally have placed an unknown amount in an offshore account in the Cayman Islands. So what are the motivations behind this?
Morris Dees got started in the fundraising business back in the 60s, actually when he was in college, and his partner in his earliest endeavors, Millard Fuller, says,
Morris Dees and I, from the first day of our partnership, shared one overriding purpose: to make a pile of money. We were not particular about how we did it. We just wanted to be independently rich. During the 8 years we worked together, we never wavered in that resolve.
One of the things that Morris Dees realized was that if he got in with the political fundraising, he would be able to tap into some very deep pockets. So he became the fundraiser for the Democratic Party for George McGovern back in 1972. And from that he got the list for the big Democratic Party donors. Then he duplicated that again for the Carter campaign, and again was able to get access to those big donors. He has built on that ever since, and now he has a huge money-making machine.
As you can see, Dees' personal ambitions have made him very wealthy. It has also given him a great deal of power within our federal government. As a political resource, the Southern Poverty Law Center is able to spread its influence. The dangers of having our federal or state law enforcement agencies supplied with bad intelligence are bigger than you may realize. Training our local police departments with this information will have effects on citizens nationwide. While many have thought the Southern Poverty Law Center has been building America up, they have been slowly tearing it down. Having the Southern Poverty Law Center inject a political agenda into law enforcement, not simply supplying information on real hate groups, is a serious threat. The John Birch Society's Support Your Local Police program exposes problems such as the Southern Poverty Law Center and educates citizens on the benefits of local police as opposed to a national police force. We at the John Birch Society want to promote good character and stop the promotion of hate and violence. Our goal is to work together to bring back less government, more responsibility, and with God's help, a better world.